Hey guys, so here today we're gonna talk with Sarah Meyers Brent. She was one of my first podcast guests. I haven't talked with her in a while, and today we're gonna delve into her experience being part of the i3C collective. If you have seen the previous conversation, I talked with Adriana about the ins and outs of the collective and all the particularities. These next series of interviews are really gonna talk with the artists themselves and how is their experience being part of a collective and the significant advantages of being part of a bigger group of artists that are working within the same teams. So keep tuned and let's dive in the conversation. So, Sarah, thank you so much for being here today and agreeing to talk to me about the collective. We haven't talked in a while. You were one of my first guests on the podcast, and we haven't spoke since. Can you just start with telling us a bit about any new series of work or any concepts that you have been delving into, any experimentation with materials or creative process?
Well, this piece kind of peeking out behind me, I made for a site-specific wall at a gallery that I just showed at. And I had meant it was kind of interesting because it ended up being a piece that's made out of basically debris from painting. And that, like, it's all a bunch of paint rags all assembled together. And then it creates like a larger sculpture that was like 85 inches across and sat on a wall. And I had meant to just use the fabric to build up like an art, like sort of the base of the sculpture. And then I was going to add materials on top, like repurposed materials, like my old pieces. But I just loved how the paint fabric, it's like the paint I like with paint, and then you rub your paintbrush off on the rag, and then it hardens the fabric, and it has all this beautiful color on it. So I made that piece, but it's sort of also interesting because it's also like a comment on, I don't know, I do painting and sculpture, and it makes me think about like, I don't know, how my sculpture is so much more as, just using repurposed materials, and that painting is using a lot of new materials.
Okay, you have that duality with your paintings and your sculptures.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then my paintings, like the other one behind me here, they're nature based. So they sort of the same themes, but, I'm working on, more canvas materials, paint.
So you are now able to do more site-specific sculptures.
Yeah. I've always done site specific sculptures, particularly when I have a show. I like to go to the venue, look around, look for something that inspires me in the surroundings and often make a piece for it.
Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about your experience with the collective? What motivated you to join?
I saw that I knew a couple of artists, sort of, like whose work I like not super well, but and I saw that they were doing a Zoom presentation about their work and sort of what they do as environmental activists. And I just was so inspired listening to it. They all went through their work and sort of how their work tied into sort of what they were doing with their art, what they were other things they were doing. And I just was so inspired and just sort of I am a member of the Mothers Out Front activist group, and I do a lot with the swap share out of mid-surface materials in my community. And I have artist friends, but I don't really have like those two things. I don't know too many people who like do both of those things combined.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to hear a bunch of artists talking about how they're using their art to make an impact, or even if like I'm not seeing the connection between their art and sort of their activism, just sort of hearing that conversation and starting that conversation is super interesting to me.
So you reach out to Adriana or reached out to one of the artists that are involved?
I believe I just was so inspired by that. I just wrote Adriana on Instagram that I just was so inspired by that. And that she asked to speak with me because, seeing that my sculptures were sort of in line with her mission. And she is
That's
just, I don't, she's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. She is. I always enjoy talking with her. She always have new perspectives on things and she moves quite well. It's always good to talk to her.
Yeah.
So have you felt being in a collective has improved your reach and your voice and you have reached new audiences or wider audiences?
guess I'm like still trying to figure this out a little bit. I'm on the marketing committee for the collective. So I was also trying to think about, and I sort of am already know about contacting the usual, like, art press and that sort of thing. But like, I'm trying to spin my wheels to think about what other kind of reach we can have sort of for people that I would like to bring in and, who aren't normally part of sort of the art conversation. So I'm sort of like still trying to figure that out. I mean, I think from when we spoke before, like, I feel like I already have a pretty good reach sort of with my art in general. So I don't know if the collective, I don't know, from career standpoint, I'm not like thinking about it that way, but I do think there's something powerful about this sort of collective group of artists. And I do think there are people getting out to see these shows because we're doing them in different locations that maybe normally wouldn't see the art. And hopefully, I just think that using the art is just a really good way to address the topics of climate in a way that people don't like are open to hearing it,
Yeah.
listening.
So have you been part of any talks, workshops, any conversations within the collective?
Yes, I did a fun conversation with Jeffrey Nolan, who also works with like lots of fabrics, but he does more like weaving and weaves assemblage items into his fabrics. And we did it at this exhibit in Cambridge at a place called Honey Jones. And that was super interesting to see what is similar about our practices and things we're thinking about. And I feel like everything I'm thinking about is more like on a smaller scale in my community, like the objects in my home, waste, that sort of thing. And he has much more of like a global perspective that he approaches his work with. Like he had traveled abroad and lived different places. And I just thought that was like super interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed that conversation a lot. And then I've been just involved with a number of the shows.
Okay, so in your perspective, what is the significant improvement that being in a collective can be for an artist? Can be this collective in specific or in general?
Yeah, I just think, well, in general, I just feel like the choice to be an artist, I feel like is kind of like a crazy career choice, So it's nice to be around of a lot of other artists who are sort of doing the same thing. And then specifically with this, it's nice to hear about how their art and ecology and how they're sort of trying to work, towards those goals. I feel like I've learned a lot from a number of the artists.
And did you feel that being involved with such, because your collective is quite big, so I think 2022, if I'm not mistaken, and it
Mhm.
might grow. How is all of that being in such a big collective? You are part of the marketing team, so I presume there is a lot of work. So can you tell us a bit about that aspect of being involved with so many people that are working within your teams, and also having that aspect, that organizational aspect of being in a collective?
Yeah, I was in like a cooperative gallery for a long time before this. So sort of like used to that format and that one was like an insane amount of work. I don't know. It was also on a marketing committee there, which is why I offered to do this. I mean, the only like problem with is that since that's like a skill that I have, I just like not that, I don't know, interesting once you start doing it. It's like, I'm going to like, I'm doing the Instagram, going to list the shows and, there's just like a lot of steps you need
Yeah,
to do kind of. And in some ways I volunteer for that job because I also have two younger kids and, I can't always like go in and install a show at a certain time.
yeah.
It's something I can contribute to the group in my own when I have a moment. But at the same time, I feel like it's just useful. So you feel like you're able to contribute something. And I guess I'm just also trying to be practical about the amount of time I can contribute. And I know talking to you makes me realize we haven't had a show in a while. I need to do some more. There's a lot I think I can do with the Instagram. I'm good about it when like the shows are up posting and then we have like what's nice is I think we're slowing down the number of shows. Like we were like on our like exhibit, but we're slowing that down. So I feel like now there's more opportunity to, I don't know, like I actually just spoke with one of the artists, Rebecca, yesterday because she does a lot of outdoor art. And, I just like had a conversation with her to learn more about the kinds of things she's doing and got my wheels turning. Well, maybe if I like this conversation, everyone might like this conversation and I could put it on Instagram live or. it's helping me generate more ideas, having more time in between shows.
So did you felt that it was a bit overwhelming to have shows after shows after shows?
Not, I mean, not for me, not so much. Like, honestly, overwhelming for Adriana and some of the people in styling, and I guess, and the people who are co-curating. I just feel like that would be a lot of work for them. But I just feel like we can get a little deeper into the marketing and additional programming if we have more time.
Yeah, yeah. Can you share any experiences or moments that you feel really stand out that show the mission and the impact of the collective?
I just think that some of the exhibits that they've done have been like in really good, like, I feel like the last one they just hit in Cambridge, it just had a good, I think it has a good reach, like big windows, like everybody can kind of just see it, even people who normally wouldn't go to an art gallery. And that was during like Earth Month. And I just feel like just people be able to come in and see the exhibits and learn the different information that was provided. You know, I think that, and since the exhibits are sort of being spread out in places where wouldn't necessarily always have art, I think that is just like valuable for the communities. Yeah, and people coming in. But some of the workshops, I think I didn't do that, but like seems like they were very successful. Of people coming in and making things and sort of learning while they were making. I think that seemed really cool.
Yeah. Diana mentioned that they are thinking of expanding to schools and reach to kids and to show that. I think that would be a great thing for all of you and for the kids to be involved in that.
Yeah, and I'm super. I feel like that's kind of one of the reasons I joined the collective, and I'm sort of trying. I'm more of like a studio artist. I'm here. I'm working away by myself. Sometimes I'm doing other unrelated things in the community, and then I bring objects back, and I'm just kind of in my little hole. So I actually am super interested in making art with kids, with the community, and sort of like I'm trying to learn more about that from like Michelle and Rebecca and some of the people who already do that.
In terms of collaboration, just one last question because I was thinking about it. In terms of collaborations, do you ever collaborate with, one of two artists? You mentioned that you spoke with two of the artists, Rebecca and Jeffrey.
Jeffrey,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah. Do you think of collaborating with them in terms of doing a work together or a performance or installation together or something like that?
I totally would. And I feel like I need to step out of my like my studio hole a little bit and do more of these things. I feel like I actually would really enjoy that. Like either working with another artist or like I said, like working with a school group. Yeah, I don't know. I think I like keep trying to be like, well, I don't know what I would use for an armature if I made a sculpture with them or all these things. But I feel like I just need to at least start small, just like jump in and do it. Yeah, because I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So thank you for talking with me today. I know we don't have a lot of time. It's short conversations, but I really appreciate you being here and sharing your experience with the collective.
All right. Yeah. So nice to talk to you again.
Thank you.